And that jarring cacophony tells you you're back with the Power of Three podcast, and today we're having a look at another Doctor Who original novel. I'm Kenny Smith, and today it's a 10th Doctor adventure we're putting under the microscope with Martha Jones at his side. It's Snowglobe 7, written by Mike Tucker. Snowglobe 7 was the 23rd novel in the BBC new series adventure range, published on the 10th of April 2008 with a cover by Lee Binding. This novel was also released as an audiobook as part of the New Adventures box set, along with Martha in the Mirror and The Many Hands, on the 9th of October 2008. So that's a gap of 6 months? And it was read by Georgia Moffat. No, I know the name, but can't place her. Anyway, what does the front cover show us? We've got the Doctor and Martha. The Doctor's in his blue suit, but he's wearing his overcoat. Martha's smiling over his shoulder, and it looks like they're somewhere very snowy. Could be the Scottish Highlands, but not. It's definitely not. And they're all covered in snow, and underneath there's the TARDIS with its door open. Beside it, there's what looks like a cracked open egg or two, and there's a spider climbing up the icy wall behind it. As we flip it over on the back cover, Earth 2099. Global warming is devastating the climate. The polar ice caps are melting. In a desperate attempt at preservation, the governments of the world have removed vast sections of the Arctic and Antarctic and set them inside huge domes across the world. The Doctor and Martha arrive in Snowglobe 7 in the Middle East, hoping for peace and relaxation, but they soon discover that it's not only ice and snow that has been preserved beneath the dome. While Martha struggles to help with an infection sweeping through the holidaymakers, the Doctor discovers an alien threat that has lain hidden since the last ice age, a threat that is starting to thaw. And now, let's start with an excerpt from the audiobook read by Georgia Moffat.
Inside the TARDIS, Martha Jones laughed aloud as the Doctor emerged from an interior door clutching a large inflatable banana. The Doctor looked at her indignantly. Instead of his pinstripe suit and brown overcoat, he was wearing baggy shorts, Hawaiian shirt and a sombrero. He put on a huge pair of sunglasses. Perfect for a beach holiday, don't you think? Absolutely. Elton John would be proud of you. I got these from him, I think. The Doctor pulled off the sunglasses and frowned. Either him or the Mogadishu Replanak. I always get those two mixed up. He tossed the glasses aside and thrust the banana at Martha. Now then, where to go? Martha joined him at the controls. The Doctor seemed more excited than she did. He twisted a control, peering at the readouts. Sun, sea and sugary shiplanos, that's what's in order. Sugary what? You've never had a sugary shiplano? Oh, you haven't lived. It's like liquid candy floss, but it's lighter than air, so it floats. Martha shook her head. I never know if you're winding me up or not. It's true, all the rage in 2050. A bloke in Weston-super-Mare found the recipe in a wreck of an Androgam space hopper that crashed in the Bristol Channel. So that's where we're going, is it? Martha folded her arms. Weston-super-Mare? Course not. The Doctor darted around the console, prodding at switches. I know a lovely little place. Nice beach, good restaurants. There was a loud thump, and the TARDIS gave a lurch as they landed. OK, so where are we? The Doctor snatched his sunglasses off the console, grabbed her hand and dragged her towards the door. Saudi Arabia, late 21st century, best beach of the century in Bartholomew's Planetary Gazetteer. He hauled open the door and Martha gave a yelp of surprise as a blast of icy wind hit them. The Doctor stared in disbelief at the snowstorm raging outside. Sighing, he wiped the snow from his sunglasses. I don't suppose you fancy a frozen shiplano instead? Locking the TARDIS, the Doctor joined Martha outside in the snowstorm. He was back in his suit and coat, and Martha had changed into heavy ski pants and a thick parka. Have you worked out where we are yet? Martha asked, shivering. Right where we should be, just down the coast from Dubai. He nodded through the swirling snow. World's tallest hotel should be that way, the Rose Tower. That would be called that, Martha muttered. The Doctor set off through the driving snow, seemingly oblivious to the biting wind. Martha groaned and pulled up the hood of her parka. Despite the doctor's assurances, she was convinced that there was a fair chance they weren't on Earth at all. She struggled up the steep incline. The doctor was standing at the top, peering through the worsening storm. There's something over there. Keeping a firm grip on his arm, Martha followed the doctor to a sheer cliff face. Martha craned her neck back. It goes up forever. The doctor reached out and touched the surface. Too smooth to be natural. Man-made? Dunno. Hang on, I think I can see something. He pulled his sonic screwdriver from his coat pocket and made a few adjustments. There was a flare of blue light and a high-pitched whine as the sonic vibrations cracked the ice. A warm light pierced the gloom. The doctor bent down and examined the exposed surface, then stepped back looking startled. Martha caught her breath. What is it? The doctor gestured towards the hole. See for yourself? Hunkering down, Martha peered into the light. A woman was looking back at her. A young woman in a bikini. With a laugh, the woman waved and ran off, along a vast expanse of golden sand that was heaving with holidaymakers. The sky overhead was a brilliant blue. Martha looked at the doctor in disbelief. We're inside a huge dome, on a beach. Ha! How could you ever have doubted me? Dr. Ahmed Jaffer reread the draft email for the 100th time. His hand hovered over the send key, unsure what to do. World resources were overstretched by the tornado season sweeping through northern Europe. A request for medical assistance handling a mysterious viral outbreak in the playground of the rich and famous was hardly going to be a priority. The buzzer sounded, shattering the quiet. He stabbed at the button impatiently. Yes, Marisha, what is it? Director Cowley is here. Jaffa sighed. The director would want answers, and he wasn't sure if he had any to give her. Beth Cowley was a tall woman, wearing a crisp dark suit, elegant designer glasses perched on the end of her nose. Jaffa rose to greet her. Director, I'm sorry, I meant to get over to see you. Cowley shook her head. No need to apologise, Ahmed. I'm aware of how busy you must be. Have we made any progress? Jaffa licked his lips. My team are working on the eggs, but we've had no success in matching them to any known species. The patients in the medical bay are stable, and the new cases admitted yesterday are the last ones reported. Jaffa leaned across the desk, his facade of calm dropping away. Beth, I can't handle something of this scale. We could put in an emergency request to the World Medical Council, get the area quarantined. No! Cowley's voice was sharp. Not until you provide concrete evidence that the situation poses a danger to the outside world. Until you've signed your deal with O'Keefe, you mean? Cowley frowned. Discourtesy doesn't suit you, Dr. Jaffa. You don't like O'Keefe, and you don't like that I've agreed to deal with him. Her tone softened. I like it even less than you, Ahmed. But the economics of our situation are simple. Either we accept O'Keefe's offer, or we lose everything. So if we can keep this incident under wraps until I've secured our future... The woman flashed him a dazzling smile. Well? Jaffa nodded. Okay. But if I even begin to suspect that this could spread... Cowley's smile didn't waver. Of course, Dr. Jaffa. She rose from her chair. Now, I have to meet Mr. O'Keefe. The door slid shut, and Jaffa slumped forward, head in his hands. What the hell was he going to do? Martha stumbled in the snow, cursing under her breath. They'd been following the curve of the wall for nearly 15 minutes looking for a door. The snowstorm continued unabated. Keeping an eye on the doctor's receding form, Martha stopped to shake the snow from her hood. A dark shape flickered across the edge of her vision. Martha peered through the swirling snowflakes, straining to see the shape. Little more than a blur in the distance. There was a noise, too. Barely audible above the wind, a harsh chirruping. Doctor? With a sudden panic, Martha realised she couldn't see him anymore. She glanced back at the shadowy shape. It had gone. Slowly, she began to move through the knee-deep snow, following the doctor's trail. Something darted past her, circling ahead. Gasping, Martha tried to move faster, the snow fighting her at every step. There was a burst of harsh clicking from somewhere behind her, and Martha realised with horror that there was more than one creature stalking her. She threw herself forward, snow stinging her eyes. Her only thought now was to get to the doctor. With horror, she realised that the storm was covering his tracks. "Doctor!" she gasped. "Where are you?" Breathless, Martha stopped. Summoning up the strength to continue, a barrage of chittering echoed off the dome wall. With a cry of fear, Martha forced herself forward, and a dark shadow loomed up ahead of her.
Thank you so much for that, Georgia, and she'll be back later with a second reading. Meantime, we're going to go to the main event and speak with the writer of the book. Let's have a nice big Power of Three welcome once again for Mike Tucker.
I am Mike Tucker, and I am the author of Snowglobe 7.
Welcome back, Mike. It seems an age since we've spoken.
Indeed it does.
Not at all like a minute, but yes, it's a joy to have you back and to talk about Snowglobe 7, which I just finished half an hour before we started chatting.
Well, you've read it more recently than I have then, because I don't think I've read this since I delivered it.
Wow. So was this pretty much Justin Richards picking up the phone or sending an email to say, would you like to come back and do another?
It was very much Justin going, would you like to do another one? And it was very much Justin going, would you like to pitch 3 ideas? And we will choose the one that we like, which is the way the BBC Books team and Cardiff liked to work. And as with The Nightmare of Black Island, I pitched 3 ideas thinking, well, this isn't the one they're going to go for. And it was. Different beast, in as much that you've now got Martha instead of Rose. And a different beast in as much that, as opposed to my dark and glowering Welsh skies, it's set in Dubai. So jumping to about as different a location as I could possibly get.
Yep. In Dubai with ice and snow.
Yes.
Which all makes sense in the book, but we'll come to that. So what was your starting point for this one? Had you been to Dubai, or had you been to some frozen waste and thought, this is a different kind of setting?
I'll admit to being a fan of the frozen waste settings, whether that be Howard Hawks' The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, any one of a number of Arctic or Antarctic set horror stories like The Abominable Snowman. It's a great setting, very Doctor Who-y. But as with a lot of the books, this came from reading a number of scientific articles, and specifically one here was people trying to save sections of the Arctic and Antarctic ice sheet, which I thought was a fascinating exercise. And the second one was an article about a virus or a number of different viruses, one of which took over the bodies of ants and made them climb to the top of tall plants in order for the fruiting bodies to come out of them. And probably more appropriate to this book was a virus that got into mice, knowing that it could only reproduce in the guts of cats. So the mice would run into the path of cats to get eaten, knowing that the virus would then be able to pass on. And I just thought that this business of a virus taking over an organism in such a way that it can control it to do its own bidding was such a good hook for a Doctor Who story. And I just combined the two of them in this particular book.
That is horrifying. I had never heard of that one, like with the cats. So poor mice and poor pussies.
Just the way that it changed their entire behavioural patterns. So yeah, it was a combination of these things, and I thought, well, there's a good Doctor Who story in there.
Definitely was. You must have found it quite interesting with this different dynamic with Doctor and Companion, with Martha's unrequited love for the Doctor. And there's that wonderful line that you have in there about, oh, go on, Martha, get yourself a holiday romance. And Martha says, I wish. And it's just that wistful comment, it just sums her up perfectly.
Yeah, but the other thing I got with Martha is that she was a medical professional. And I'm a little like, I felt that Bonnie Langford's Mel was ill-served on the TV series. You bring her in as this computer expert and then never let her near a computer. I felt that Martha she's been introduced as a medical professional, and then you never let her do anything medical. So the fact that I had this sort of state-of-the-art hospital in Dubai, I thought, well, I'm going to make sure that we make the most of her in this setting and separate her from the doctor and let her go off and have an adventure on her own. So yeah, I was pleased to be able to do that, to actually show that she was a useful person to have around.
Yeah, she's absolutely competent, and she's
exactly incredibly competent.
I love her to bits. Of course, something that did make me grin a lot was the character of Maxwell O'Keefe, who struck me as reminded me of some guy who used to be on an American TV show, The Apprentice or something like that. And I can't remember what he did after he left that, but I'm sure he nearly ruined the world at one point. And reading it, his dialogue, I can hear every single line in his voice.
I don't think that's where he comes from. I think that's one of those weird coincidences. I certainly wasn't writing a Trump-like character in 2008. So I think it's the worst kind of shady businessman. And it may just be one of those happy accidents that he's ended up reminding you of somebody who's in the news at the moment. But I don't think I certainly don't recall deliberately writing a Trump-like character. I just knew that I wanted this character to be, nothing about him is interested in the greater good of this project. It's purely money. And because of that, he attracts people around him, like Rabley, who are also interested in nothing but the money. And it's something I probably got a little bit wrapped up in some of my supporting characters, because I keep cutting back to them time and time again. And I'm very aware that with Rabley in particular, his story arc actually ends up being very tragic, because he arrives, he has this grand plan, and then none of it comes to fruition, and he ends up dying anyway. Spoilers. So he doesn't really add much to the story, other than the fact that I do tend to get wrapped up in my supporting characters and trying to give them very distinct characteristics and very obvious voices, if you like. And I do enjoy writing them. I mean, that was true in this one, and it's true in ones I've done subsequently.
I imagined Ralph Little as Rabley.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
That kind of sort of out for himself, slightly cheeky, slightly cocky, and yeah, just that's who I visualise as him. Of course, we also get Cowley, who of course is quite a tragic story in her own right. She's doing her best, doing absolutely everything she can to keep the Snowglobe going, and it means getting into bed with the devil with O'Keefe, and then of course she becomes possessed.
Yeah. So I mean, she's not quite whiter than white, in as much that she's keeping quiet all the problems that are going off, in the hope that if we can just get the signature on the dotted line, then those problems go away, for me at least. But yeah, once the Gapper sort of get hold of her brain, she does become, as you say, quite a tragic character.
Mentioning the Gapper, the whole idea when they think that these are eggs they found, whereas it's human skulls. What a brilliant idea. Again,
Hammer horror, not trying to do something too much, but yeah, the idea that moment of, what you're seeing is, again, it's a little bit like that scene in Alien, or the deleted scene from Alien, I should specify, where Ripley stumbles across Brett and Dallas, cocooned by the aliens, turning back into eggs. There's very much some of that going on here, the sort of body horror aspect of it. So yeah, it was like, these aren't eggs. We've taken over this person. We've sort of devoured the body, and the bit that's left is the skull, which is going to turn into the egg for the new creature. So yeah, I guess it is a little gruesome. But again, I think the series was starting to push a little bit at the boundaries of what it could do at this point as well. I mean, Lazarus Experiment's got some full-on body horror stuff going on. So it obviously passed the Cardiff brand management team's any objections would have been made at the time. So I guess they were happy with it. So I just went with it.
Martha does get a sort of double act with Kura,
Yeah, Kura.
and that's quite a nice relationship. The fact we've got some aliens who've arrived on Earth, and they're nice, friendly aliens.
Well, this was something that I was really keen on doing. The fact that sort of Doctor Who at this point has given over the pretense that every alien invasion can somehow be explained away and nobody remembers that it happened. We're very much going, no, very much from the Christmas invasion. It's like, and Aliens of London. Everyone's seen this. There's no hiding it. There are aliens. So I wanted to do something. Well, what happens if a race turns up and doesn't just arrive for a 15-minute episode and then leave? But we're a refugee fleet. We're here. We want to stay. So that's where the Flisk came from. It's like we've got this race that have arrived on Earth. They're refugees from their own planet. We're welcoming them in, and then suddenly you discover, oh, they're telepathic, and a whole bunch of prejudices and fears get thrown up because of that. It seemed a really interesting exploration of not an alien invasion, but an alien arrival for me. And I didn't dwell on it, but I just thought, well, if we've got these characters, let's integrate them fully into Earth society and just make them additional characters. But then you've got this telepathic ability which proves useful for plot devices within the story.
So how did you find writing for the Doctor and Martha? Because you mentioned previously when we spoke about The Nightmare in Black Island that you'd been to see Gridlock.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember what we were shown for Martha, to be honest. In fact, I think by the time I came to write this, had she even been out on screen? I don't know. 2008?
Yes. Yeah,
yes. So I'd probably seen a couple of Martha episodes by the time I came to write this. So it was a relatively straightforward process from that point of view. Tennant's by this point is well settled as the 10th Doctor, so writing his vocal patterns is very easy. You've got the motor mouth thing. So yeah, plus I'd done one. So knowing the sort of Russell T Davies style for New Who made it a little bit of an easier process.
Yeah, well, we'll come back to a Russell T Daviesism in a wee minute. Of course, the way you've got this set up, we've got pretty much the end of the world with the infectious dust being ready to be spread all over the world. And when I was reading that, I was just thinking, like, how the hell are you going to get out of this one, short of materialising the TARDIS around every last particle? And that really sort of like, how's he going to do this? And then, of course, that Russell T Davies element of the no second chances and the Doctor having to let the explosion go ahead and destroy everything. I thought that was very much the Tennant we didn't always get on TV.
Yeah, I mean, he knows that he has to kill off the race. His job is to try and minimize the collateral damage. And what's being presented to him is something with massive collateral damage, which is, basically firebombing the entire area. So he goes, well, I'll get there first. Destruction is going to happen. It's inevitable. So I'll get in there first and minimize that destruction, which is, if you like, sort of going back to my classic Doctor Who roots, Tom Baker's really brutal exchange. Tom Baker, the Fourth Doctor's really brutal exchange with Sarah Jane in Pyramids of Mars. Dr. Aman's just died. And he goes, yes, and millions will die unless I stop him. So I'm going to push him to one side, chalk it up to very sad, and move on. And it's much like that here. It's like, okay, I have to kill the Gapper. There's nothing I can do about it. I've worked out a way of doing it that will kill them and them alone, but at least I'm not going to have the wider population of Dubai wiped out at the same time. So it's the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
And I like that moral ambiguity of the Doctor sometimes. He's not adverse to committing mass murder, but it might not be as bad as it could be.
Yeah, I mean, I do like, at least at the end, there's that sort of the element of redemption when he does go to get the Modricanians, the ones who transported the Gappa to Earth in the first place, and takes them back home. And then there's just that lovely moment right at the end as the TARDIS dematerializes and a lone mammoth straggling behind the herd bellowed in reply, but the TARDIS had gone. Love that.
Yeah, so I did have fun with that. And then, of course, it ends with, to my shame, to the people of Western Supermare, I spell Western wrong, or rather, it wasn't picked up. It should be Weston Supermare, not Western Supermare, which is right in the opening chapter and wrong in the final one. But there we go.
But there was the Time War. The Time War changed its spelling.
Well,
If in doubt, blame it in the Time War.
Yeah.
So, how do you look back on this one? Again, a happy experience.
Of all the books I've done, it's the one that I have the least memory of doing, which I know sounds very strange. I know I wrote it because it's there with my name on it. But unlike Nightmare of Black Island and unlike the two I did subsequently, I don't have an awful lot of recollection of the physical writing of this book, which I can only assume means that it came in the midst of some other project that was consuming my life at the time. It's chunky. You know, it's a 256-page book. I'm not sure whether they were all roughly the same. I'm just having a look.
They're all around the 250
They're all
mark,
around 260 mark. So, yeah, it's a similar size to Nightmare of Black Island. I know it wasn't received as favourably as the first book I'd done. And I know I've got an awful lot of ideas in there pulling in slightly different directions. But I feel it hangs together as a story. I feel it does actually have a beginning, conflict, and a resolution. It was fun writing for Dubai, with everything that comes with that and the minimum research that I did about it, given I've never actually been there. I do remember that one of my characters was called Mohammed, and that it was right at the point that there had started to become some fuss in the press about using the name. So I was advised to take that character back out or rename that character, which I took on board. But yeah, I think I was very well supported by my editorial team on that. I think Justin was very good at sort of making sure that the story, because Justin's always good on story. If there's something that doesn't make sense, he'll pull you up on it. So I sort of knew, well, the story must be actually working, otherwise I'd be asked to change something. And I don't remember there being a huge number of changes in this. But I guess because you're going through pandemic-style infection stories and alien invasions and environmental stuff, and as I said, there's a lot going on, pulling in slightly different directions, and I hope it all comes together. I certainly enjoyed writing the monsters, like a non-speaking, a non-intelligent alien life form, just something guttural and animal and very alien, as in Alien and Aliens, the James Cameron, Ridley Scott films. Something that's just instinct and killing was fun to do. And I know I enjoyed doing the scene where the Doctor connects his brain to the Gapper. Very much in my mind, the scene where Tom joins his brain with the Wirren from Ark in Space. And then the nice cliffhanger to that moment where he goes, oh God, that was icky. I could have been in there for hours. And Martha goes, you were. And he suddenly realizes that hours have passed in the real world whilst he's been trying to work out what's going on. And that then compromises what he has to be able to do.
Yeah, that's great. It was a good gag. I enjoyed that. And of course, finally, Georgia Moffat, Mrs. Tennant, doing your talking book version.
Yes, which again, I will be honest, I've never listened to. I have a copy of it sitting upstairs, but I never actually listened to it. And I think, is it an unabridged version?
It is an abridged version. They didn't start unabridged until it was the solo Tennant novels.
Right. So, yeah, never listened to it, sadly.
Well, she does a good job, as you would
I'll
expect.
have to give it a go.
Fantastic. Mike, thank you once again for your time and having a chat with us.
Not at all, Kenny.
Huge thanks, as always, to Mike for taking the time to share his memories of everything Snowglobe 7 related. And now, before we get to the contemporary reviews, and indeed the current ratings, let's have a second excerpt from Snowglobe 7. Over to you once more, Georgia.
The doctor snatched up the sonic screwdriver, fumbling with the controls. One of the creatures hissed angrily, clambering down the side of the pit. A low rumble reverberated through the cavern. The rumbling got louder, and then with an explosion of ice and rock, something huge burst through the wall. The creatures scattered. The doctor grabbed O'Keefe and hauled him to one side as Service Robot 12 landed in the pit with a crash. At once, the creatures launched themselves at the intruder. 12 battered at them with huge metallic arms. The creatures tumbled like skittles, skidding across the ice. The robot hauled itself out of the pit. The creatures circled warily, snarling. One of them leapt onto 12's back, claws scrabbling on the smooth metal. The robot grasped the creature's legs and swung it into the air. Its cries were cut short with a horrible wet popping noise as 12 smashed it onto the ice. The cavern was filled with a cacophony of screeching. Roused from its telepathic trance by the death cries of its young, the parent creature unfolded itself, slowly. Long, powerful legs lifting its bulk from the ice. Towering over 12, it let out a deafening roar and swiped down with razor-sharp claws. In the medical bay, the infected patients dropped to the floor like rag dolls, and there was a moment of sudden silence. Martha struggled to her feet, fumbling with the clasp at her throat. Her helmet came free with a pop. Remembering to check her mask was still in place, Martha greedily sucked in fresh air. Marisha and Kura peered out in astonishment from the morgue. Outside in the corridor, 2 security personnel stepped from the lift. "What happened?" Marisha asked, ignoring the guards now banging on the door. Martha looked around at the fallen bodies. "I don't know. One minute they were all over me, the next." Kura was rubbing his head. "The telepathic signal, I can't feel it anymore." Martha frowned. "That means that the creatures stopped calling them." Kura nodded. "I think it's been distracted by something." "I think you mean distracted by someone." Martha chewed her lip. "What the hell are you up to, Doctor?" Rabley had lost Cowley. Cursing, he retraced his steps. A scrape of metal above his head made him stop. He looked up. There was a hatch set into the ceiling, practically invisible amongst the pipes and cables. A ladder on the wall led to a walkway amongst the tangle of pipes. Rabley scrambled up and peered into the ventilator shaft. It was a narrow chute, heading upwards at a 45-degree angle. Hearing the sound of scraping metal again, Rabley smiled. He'd found Cowley. He swung the holdall onto his back and climbed up the shaft as quickly as he dared. It opened out into a fan room. On the other side of the room there was a small opening where the shaft continued upwards. With a start, Rabley realised that Cowley was next to the hatchway. She stood motionless, the metal case at her feet and her head cocked, listening intently. Suddenly, Cowley turned and gave Rabley a broad smile. "Soon. It will all be over soon." With that, she turned, picked up the case and ducked into the ventilation shaft. Rabley grinned, unable to believe his luck. She's completely bonkers. His smile faded as a grill slammed down over the shaft entrance. On the other side, Cowley was securing the bolts. "They're coming. Soon you will understand them too." There was a low whine as the fans started to spin into life. Then another noise cut through the throb of the fans. A harsh, insistent clicking that Rabley could feel in his gut. With a chill of horror, he recognised the sound. One of the creatures was climbing up the ventilation shaft behind him. Rabley was trapped. The parent creature hit 12 like a steamroller, sending the robot crashing backwards. It tore at the steel shell of the robot, but 12 gripped the creature in huge hands holding it at bay. The robot staggered to its feet and hurled the thrashing creature across the cavern, the vast bulk shattering a column of ice and rock. The creature's young scattered as chunks of the ceiling crashed down around them. 12 spun around to face the doctor. "You must leave." "No," snapped the doctor. "I'm not leaving without you." "You must." "I can't. O'Keefe is alive. He's too heavy for me to carry. I need you to come with me." The robot's face was incapable of expression, but the doctor could sense its frustration. "Wait here." Blue flame spat from a concealed welding torch on 12's arm. The robot adjusted the gas mixture, and the flame transformed into a blazing sheet of yellow fire. Scooping up the shattered body of the creature it had killed, 12 played the roaring flame over it. The corpse erupted into a blazing ball of skin and fur. The robot hurled the burning mass into the cavern, and the creatures scattered. 12 stepped back into the pit. There was a worryingly loud crack from the ice overhead. Effortlessly, the robot gathered the body of Maxwell O'Keefe in its arms. "We need to leave now." The doctor scrambled through the ragged hole in the wall. The angry cries of the creatures spurred them onwards. Dim, fluorescent light appeared ahead, and the doctor climbed out into the service corridor. 12 lumbered after him. "I will attempt to create a barrier at this end of the fissure." The big robot set down O'Keefe on the floor and turned to the pile of abandoned equipment in the passageway. The doctor held up his hand. "Hold on a minute, big guy." He pointed to the anti-grav sled that had jutted from the pile. "Do you think you could get that free?" 12 began clearing wreckage off the sled. The doctor crouched next to O'Keefe's unconscious body. His only hope now was to get back to the sickbay and find an antidote to the infection. The doctor looked grimly at his patient. He had another reason for getting O'Keefe back to the infirmary. The primal energy of the adult creature's mind had proved too much for him to cope with. But the embryonic creature taking form inside O'Keefe could provide the answers he needed. The baying cries of the creatures made him look up in alarm. 12, how are you doing over there?" With a grinding roar, the robot hauled the vehicle free and placed it down on the floor. The doctor hopped up onto the sled and brushed debris from the controls. He opened up an inspection plate, peering inside. "Most of the primary systems are still operational. Gyros are a bit wonky though, so we won't have the smoothest of rides." 12 turned towards the tunnel mouth. 4 life signs approaching. 55 meters and closing." "Well, don't just stand there," snapped the doctor. "Get O'Keefe onto the sled." Obediently, the robot placed O'Keefe gently on the rear of the vehicle, then clambered up alongside him. 12, open your inspection hatch. A small panel on the robot's chest sprang open. 30 meters. The doctor reached into the guts of the sled and hauled out a thick cable with a multi-pinned plug on the end. The robot tilted a dispassionate head towards him. "The connectors for Baz Industries anti-grav sleds are not compatible with any of my sockets. 20 meters. Always the way with peripherals, isn't it? Never got the right adapter. I'll just have to hotwire it. The doctor jammed the cable into 12's exposed circuitry. With a roar of power, the sled jumped into the air. 10 meters. The doctor grabbed the steering column and pulled it hard. The sled shot forwards and he gave a whoop of triumph. As they sped away, he glanced over his shoulder to see the creatures tumble out into the corridor and start scuttling along the tunnel after them. They weren't going to give up their prey so easily.
Snowglobe 7 is still available as an audiobook download, and you'll be able to find that in all the usual places. Now, let's pop over to the pages of Doctor Who magazine and see what they had to say about it in issue 396, when the reviewer was Matt Michael. Matt said, "Imagine what the world will look like in 100 years. Picture the seas creeping even higher, animals such as polar bears going extinct as their environments boil or melt away, and imagine the polar ice caps existing only as old pictures and films. This is the world of the snow globes, where the only chunks of Arctic left are housed in a dozen glass domes dotted in deserts around the world. This is where the Doctor and Martha arrive, just as Snowglobe 7 falls victim to something from another world. Those somethings are the Gappa, and they're genuinely horrible creations, with a life cycle as nasty as the Wirrans, and a look that's like something straight out of M.R. James. Thin, hairy and spidery. First glimpsed as little more than shapes inside the ice and blizzards, they're soon scuttling around the snow globes, alternately devouring or depositing their eggs inside the hapless tourists, and basically acting like John Carpenter's Thing. As a special effects designer, Mike Tucker has a very clear vision of how these things look and move, and he conveys it brilliantly to the reader, meaning that the Gappa are among the most successful creations not yet to have appeared on television. As in all those early 1970s episodes, environmental concerns, specifically the destruction of the polar ecosystems, form a patina to this otherwise very traditional adventure story. The Gappa have evolved up an evolutionary blind alley, so successful that they have destroyed all the life on their homeworld, and while the Doctor's more optimistic about humanity's chances, there's a clear and unedifying message here around the greedy exploitation of the Earth's resources. Tucker even gives a face to the theme in the shape of Maxwell O'Keefe, billionaire playboy and all-round bad egg, who's plotting to take over the administration of Snowglobe 7 and turn this last outpost of unspoiled Arctic ice into a fat cat's playground. And while O'Keefe's almost comically hateable, being very much in the pantomimic, hand-rubbing wicked squire mould, Tucker does finally manage to wring out some sympathy for him. The other characters are all well sketched, although it's lovable sidekick alien Kuru and cute robot 12 who are the most memorable of the supporting cast. Plus, the Doctor and Martha are spot on, in particular the Doctor, whose turn-on-a-penny persona is superbly conveyed. The overall impression left by these latest 3 10th Doctor novels is one of enjoyment tinged with a nagging sense that the authors are playing it safe. In Tucker's case, he's mined this particular seam of science fiction horror to perfection, which isn't usually surprising, given that he's been writing similar stories since 1999's Storm Harvest, and most recently in The Nightmare of Black Island. Given his grip of narrative and imagery, I'm looking forward to his next book, while hoping that it's more ambitious. Over in Goodreads, this has a rating of 3.78. That's from 1,187 ratings and 79 reviews. Of these, 28% are 5 stars, 30% 4 stars, 32% 3 stars, 7% 2 stars, and 1 star 1%. Here's a 5-star review from Andrew Tran, 30291. This book is a very complicated book since it gives you the perspectives of all the characters, but I enjoyed it. I think that you will like this book if you like suspense, aliens and science fiction. If you watch the Doctor Who series, then you know what you are expecting. If you don't, I'll explain it briefly for you. It is about a person that saves the world from aliens with his time-space machine teleporter. He also has a companion helping him. This book is a bit challenging since you don't know who it is it keeps referring to when it double spaces, but you will get the hang of it. This book is very cool. If you like this book, then you should try watching the series. To sum it all up, this book is a bit challenging, but you will love it. Interesting from Andrew. 4-star review from Ken. A classic base under siege story, as the Doctor and Martha must stop the spreading of an unknown disease through Snowglobe 7. Tucker's world building of a far future where global warming has forced governments to create various domes to be built around the world is brilliant. Initially intended for scientific discovery, most of the globes have become big business for winter holiday retreats. Both the Doctor and Martha are well written, as it's nice that the companion who is a medical student is able to put her skills to the test in this adventure. There's that 4-star review from Anwish Ganguly. He says, "This is my first Doctor Who novel and I loved it. I was under a bit of doubt when I bought 7 Doctor Whos from a thrift book sale. I was doubtful if I would ever like this or not. I was not sure. But now, I can definitely and positively say I'm a fan of the charismatic, enigmatic, flamboyant and ever ready with a solution Doc. Not to forget Martha Jones, the no-nonsense sidekick, who surely knows how to work as second to the Doc, and during times of need can kick a butt or two, human and alien. The book is very fast-paced, and for someone who is reading the series for the first time, it has a way of explaining things that don't make the reader feel that he or she is missing out on the context or the plot. If you're a science fiction lover, this is a series of standalone novels that will take you on a wild ride through different dimensions of time and space." 2-star review from Anka. Reasons why I disliked this book. Too many characters. Point of view from boring side characters. An annoying robot that somewhat becomes a companion for this story. The climate change aspect just didn't add up. Monsters stroke enemies that were mediocre at best. Plot-wise, it's a standard Doctor Who storyline, but the execution was far from decent. And also a 1-star review from Alice. She says, "This novel took me an embarrassingly long time to finish, like almost 3 months, in which I rather finished 4 other books. It was boring, cliched, had the exact same issues like every other 10 and Martha Doctor Who book out there barring one, Sick Building, and a half, Peacemaker." On the plus side, however, there's a 5-star review for the audiobook, and that came from Julie. "This is an exciting and interesting Doctor Who adventure. Lots going on. Martha running around doctoring and the Doctor running around fighting alien creatures, all inside a gigantic Snowglobe. Very cool. At just shy of 2.5 hours long, this is an easy listen. Georgia Moffat narrates. She reads at a nice steady pace and is easily understandable. As usual with BBC audio presentations, the production quality is high. Very enjoyable audiobook. I have listened to several Doctor Who adventures in audiobook form recently. I am really enjoying them. Perfect length and great stories." Well, there we go. It seems to be a generally happy bunch there. Well, apart from one. So, there we are. If you've enjoyed today's episode, remember you can follow us on social media. We are at Power of 3 Pod on Twitter. We have a Blue Sky at Finished Zine, and we also have a Facebook page. And if you also enjoy it, please do leave a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from, as they're always good for us. Well, we're out of time again, and before we go, we're going to play out with a tune. And it seems appropriate, given that this is a book about climate change and its effects, that we're going to go with a song about that very issue. So, here's Joni Mitchell from her 1970 hit, Big Yellow Taxi. Until next time, I've been Kenny Smith. Bye-bye.
They paved paradise, put up a parking lot with a pink hotel, a boutique, and a swinging hot spot. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. They took all the trees, put them in a tree museum, and they charged the people $1.50 just to see them. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise, put up a park.